Yeah.
3, 2.
What's up, family? This is Rashid with another episode of Ages and Stages, the podcast where we talk life, love, relationships, pop culture, business, and everything in between. And today I got another special guest, a really good brother, and somebody I call a personal friend. And this brother agreed to come on. And you know what's crazy was this was the first interview I had when I started Ages and Stages after my season of Ready to Love. So without further ado, I need to bring on my guy, my partner, Chef Edwin Henderson.
What's going on, man?
What's up, brother? How are you, man?
I'm good, brother.
Good to see you, man.
Appreciate you having me on, man.
Man, thank you for coming, bro.
Absolutely.
Like, it's been a minute.
It's been a minute,
It's
man.
been a minute.
It's definitely been a minute.
A lot has happened.
Life is happening.
Right, in both of our lives.
Yeah,
And, you know, we're just here to chop it up. As I told you guys when I came back to the show, to the podcast, I'm just going to have cool people on that I like, that I admire, that I rock with, and that I just want to have a conversation with and chop it up with. You're definitely one of those guys, man. Because, you know, you're a great dude, good spirit, man. And I think we got a lot of similar interests and like-minded things, man. So I think people need to hear from you and your perspective, brother. And you got a lot going on, so we're gonna talk about that as well,
Absolutely, man. I appreciate that, man. That's love, man.
Yeah, for sure,
At
man.
the end of it all, that's absolute love, man.
Yeah, man.
I
So
feel the same way, brother.
thank you, man. So on our show, let me see, so we can have a conversation, because like I said, we just chopping it up. So on our show, the guys, man, we really like rock with each other. Like we didn't no beef with anybody, and we still all root for each other and pull up to different things and different events that each other are having. And I want to thank you, man. You came out to my Martini Mondays the first night.
Great time, man.
And showed up. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. So yeah, just trying to do something different for the city. Something a little higher end. And on Mondays, because people don't really do nothing on Mondays in Houston. We're a big enough city to do that and have a nice, sexy vibe, beautiful people, great food. So what do you think about the food at Martini? Because you're a chef now, so give me your honest opinion.
So, you know, on a scale of, let's say, we'll say the scale is 1 to 10.
Okay.
I'll give it right now a 7.5.
Okay.
And I'll give it that only because of the fact that there's some areas that, you know, as a chef, you kind of look at, take an assessment, and you say, okay, well, this area needs to be improved in. Like if I make a request on a certain thing being, you know, say for instance, a steak or a burger or whatever being made a certain, you know, specification, and it doesn't come out that way, then that's just a concern. But other the flavor is good.
That's what's up.
The wait staff, man, amazing.
Yeah.
Definitely made sure that we talked to, I can't remember the manager's name, got a chance to talk to him.
Yeah.
And just to be able to show some love to the waiter that we had at that particular time, man, 'cause he was great.
Yeah.
And the food was good, man. It was a good
cool,
vibe.
man.
The drinks were great.
Yeah.
You know, DJ Reeks did his thing.
Yeah.
On the 1 to 2s, man.
what's
So
up. Well,
it was
man.
good to see, you know, just beautiful people come together, man. Just to chill.
Just chill.
Have a good time.
Right, because we're tired of the club. So if you don't know, I mentioned it before, but I just started a new event here in Houston. I did it years and years ago. And, you know, Edwin's we knew each other indirectly.
Yeah.
Just crazy. And we figured this out when we were on the show.
While we were on the show.
And you know, our situation was unique to anybody else.
Yeah.
Nobody can share our story from Ready to Love because we were the only ones that were basically cast, like taken away from our environment.
Yeah.
If y'all remember that, we were the only ones. We were in North Georgia in like I guess that's the Smoky Mountains up that way. Yeah. And we were taken away from our families for basically a month. Yeah. Because, you know, you and I went down there last episode. So we were there. And then we just found out I was wearing my brand, Nelson Barcan. He was like, yo, I know that shirt. That's you. I was like, yeah, that's my shirt. So, and I did that right when I was doing my promotions back in the day. Yeah. So I did Martini Mondays years ago. It was at Uptown Hookah Lounge off of Richmond, next to Sam's Boat. So I should do that because I stole it, right? Because, you know, at the end of the day, we don't reinvent the wheel. We borrow and we steal. Absolutely. I used to live in Atlanta, right? And then Puffy had Justin's Restaurant in Atlanta on Peachtree, and they used to do Martini Mondays, and it was jumping. Yeah. And we didn't have anything like that in Houston. I was like, yo, Houston is progressive enough to do that. So I did that like 15 years ago. And I like to joke and say I introduced the urban black culture to hookah because we really wasn't doing hookah like that. This was in 07, 08. And I remember people coming in there seeing the hookahs. It's like, what the hell? What is this, a bong? They didn't know what it was. Right. And, you know, I had a successful run doing that Martini Mondays for 2 years, but then settle down, you get married, you want to do certain things, and you don't want to be in the club all night. and that's why I switched over to the T-shirt brand.
Right.
So anyway, long story short, I brought it back. The timing was right, and I found now that we're grown, people don't want to be in the club anymore because we don't dance in the club anyway no more.
Yeah.
And you come out, so I was like, what's something dope on a Monday night? I found this awesome restaurant, dope vibes. It's great atmosphere. So if you're ever in Houston, y'all come out to Martini Mondays every Monday night at 7 Restaurant and Supper Club. It's really dope.
Mediterranean food.
Yeah,
like
man.
Mediterranean food. Come out, check it out.
Patio, everything. So every Monday, y'all come holler at me. So anyway, man, so again, thanks for joining. And then just wanted to catch up, man, and see how you've been and see what's going on in your world and just kind of talk to some things that I got on my chest and then me and you have shared and just try to see how we better ourselves as men.
Absolutely.
And better the community of men and women's relationship, because this started off as a relationship-based podcast, and it still is. Yeah. But I want to talk about a lot of the other things that encompasses all that stuff. Yeah. So, man, so back to the show, right? And we'll talk briefly about that. We've moved well past that, but it still defines us to a certain extent.
It does.
I remember, let me ask this question. Have you found your Maserati yet?
Have I found my Maserati? No, not
Do y'all
yet,
remember the Maserati car? Tell them if they don't remember what you said about a young lady, let's say it was Joy at the time, about a Maserati.
So there was a part in in one particular episode that I think I equated Joy to being the Maserati of the women. So when you think about like high-end vehicles, for the most part, you don't typically see them being marketed around, per se, just like the Rolls Royce. You don't see a Rolls Royce commercial.
You don't see commercials.
And so that just lets you know that this is a high-quality item that you're obtaining. So that happened to be, Joy is I think what I did. I kind of equated her to that. Not that she's a car, but when you say a person is high
that was
value,
crazy. That was swag. That was crazy. That was crazy. Because it's true. Like high-end, super high-end exotics, being the car god, they don't really. There's no need for commercials.
Right, for sure.
So you said you haven't found your Maserati. You haven't found a special lady yet. Like, are you're not in a serious committed relationship?
I'm
sure you've dated.
Where I'm at right now, man, is I have the desire for it. The relationship, the companionship, all of that, I know I truly do desire. But I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I feel like, honestly, there's a different place that God is directing me right now in relation to focusing on, like, really building that strong foundation spiritually. Yeah. I think when I get that area under to a place where I believe it needs to be, then I believe that I'm going to be more ready for bringing upon a wife into my life. Gotcha. So I told myself that I really don't want to focus. I want to do it. I want that to be, I have the desire as a human being to be able to have that companionship. But I think it's just, I got to focus on some other stuff right now.
I think, we all have that desire, obviously, because man wasn't put here to be alone, obviously. God gave us Eve and took the side of us, the rib. So with that being said, we've been, through our show now, what was it? Nine Texas is 3 years, or it's going
coming
4?
On 4 years now.
Almost 4 years. Yeah. Right. So during that time, some of the women like, dang, it's been 4 years, you ain't found nobody yet. So what's been that process? Because I do know that you've been focusing on your son. You got a son that's about to graduate high school. And, I know that's been a primary focus of yours as well, we talked about. And you went through some things with him and trying to make sure that he's straight and you're being with him. That's been a big focus for you. So during that 4 years, how's your walk been, and and is the journey, do you see the finish line, or is it still more work to do for you to bring on that Eve and have that person in your life?
Do I see the finish line? I can say that I see a major transition in relation to how I handle life situations. Wow. Is there a finish line? I don't necessarily think that there is.
Yeah,
I don't
that's a good
think
point.
that, I think a lot of times we aspire to be able to get to a certain destination, but as long as there's like breath in our body, we're ever evolving. So we are always in a state of like becoming, like I know you've heard the term before. So I don't think we just make it to this place. I just think it's more of when we reach a certain area in our life where we feel things are changing, then it's like, okay, well, what other areas do I need to improve in? Yeah. So I think the biggest thing with me is I feel like I'm in that major transition where I'm seeing things change, or certain people are they're falling off.
Yeah,
because I reckon
that's big too.
It's not even that they're bad people.
Yeah.
You know, many times it's just the fact that they have come to a capacity in your own life, or either you might have reached a certain capacity in their life to where you have to be removed. So it's all about the growth right now, man. And I want to make sure that when I do get married, because I honestly believe that it's on the horizon. Like, I can honestly sense it.
Yeah, okay.
I can't honestly say that I sensed it like this a year ago.
Okay.
I sense it now, like it's on the horizon, because I really feel like there's just a major change going on inside of me right now, man.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to God revealing who my wife is going to be.
Yeah.
And all of that, man. And so
I love that,
great
man.
thing.
Well, I hope that for you, man. That's going to be great.
Yeah.
And you're a good dude, man. So any lady out there that you all mutually decide to be in each other's lives, man, I think it'll be dope for you.
Appreciate it.
But no, that's a good point, because I was asked this the other day. I was on an interview actually with KG on the radio, and he talked about, my process after, a breakup and a public breakup. And, what did you do? And I kind of went in my closet, my prayer closet, obviously need to do internal work on myself. Right. And he said, and I told him, I've moved to a next phase of healing. Yeah. I've healed through aspects of the disappointment, the embarrassment. You feel like a failure. Yeah. But I said, you're never completed or a completely healed vessel, like you said. Because there's always something. There's always evolving. Life is going to life. And, I say this to my friends all the time, and tell me, do you feel this way? You think about growing up, right? And your parents, my mom, my grandparents, my dad. It's like, stay young as long as you can, because this, life is hard, blah, blah, blah. But we want to grow up. We want to grow up quick. We want to do all this. And I told my buddy the other day, I was like, man, this shit is hard. Like, life is great. So do you ever look like, dang, my parents was right? Like, I wish I could go back to, when things were simpler. You look at your son, where he's just primarily now, I'm sure he's got things now. He's mature. He's a high schooler, so he's got some stuff. But
got his own world, right?
Yeah. How does that feel when you look back on when you were his age and you look how life is lifing and you going through, your process? Like, how do you feel about looking back at that? Because now now we're in mid-40s and close to 50 years old.
When you look back, man, I say to myself, I wish I had certain things that I'm equipping my son with right now. Yeah. But I try not to live in regret. I try not to live in that state of, I wish my mother, because I was raised in a single mother home. Mm-hmm. And she did what she could do, how she could do it, or what she had. The best thing that I think when you get to that age that we're at right now is, as you self-reflect and you say to yourself, okay, well, I was lacking this, but I have it now. Yeah. Or I'm working on giving myself those things, because you might realize that you might not ever be able to receive certain things from that parent that didn't give it to you at a younger age. Yeah. So you have to accept it many times. And so my thing now is, what can I make sure that I am consistently giving my son that I did not have? And then I sit back and I watch, and I just say to myself, okay, well, Edwin, you've given him the necessary tools for life. And so now you have to trust the process of him having those tools. It's not that he's going to always make the right choice, but at least you know that you've given him what he needs to be able to handle certain things in life. And so that's my biggest thing now, man. It's just, I try not to have any regrets about the past. I embrace the future. I embrace the change. There were time periods where I would allow fear to grip me. For sure. And I realized the reason why fear was gripping me is because there was a deficiency, man. I personally believe in my spirit, man. I believe that we are wholly beyond this flesh that we live in. I believe that we're spirit beings, man. Yeah. And I think there's been a major transition with me spiritually, to where I now have, I'm really settling in the peace of God. Yeah. It's something unlike it, man. When life, we always joke and say life be life. Yeah. And it does. It does. Life ain't gonna stop. Yeah. But when we can rest in the peace of God and knowing that He really has us, whether it be the good, the bad, the ugly, no matter what takes place, it's like, God, I trust you. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm at, dude. Yeah. It's just a settling. It's a
very settling point. And I've gotten to that point as well recently. And I've always came up in the church. I always brought in the church. Yeah. And you could be in the church, but the church not always be in you and have that spirit. And quite honestly, sometimes, it's just like working out, right? You go hard and then sometimes you'll fall off and then you'll miss the gym. 2 months, 3 months, 6 months turn into a year. And I had similar experiences that way with the church. And, some people, go back for various reasons.
Right.
And sometimes it takes traumatic things in life. And, but to be centered in that and know that he's always there for me and waiting on me and still guiding my life. Because I know that I am the fruit of blessings stored and prayers stored up in a storehouse from my ancestors, right? And we talk about child rearing and bringing up children. And so my next question, because I know I'm guilty of this, coming from a single mother home, and I know you had issues with your father and things of that nature, and me and my parents were married, but they divorced at a very young age, so I was raised by a single mother. And for me, I tried to break that cycle, right? Break the cycle of divorce, and unfortunately, I was unable to do so. So then you have the shame, embarrassment, blah, blah, blah. And then sometimes you find yourself trying to overcompensate to give them stuff that we didn't have. Have you ever found yourself doing that with your son?
I have.
Yeah.
It naturally happens because, out of a place of love, you want to be able to give your child the very thing that you didn't have, especially if you're like self-aware of the things that you didn't get.
Sure.
I think many times, us as parents will try to overcompensate with, say for instance, name brand stuff and Jade. I was talking to my buddies at the gym the other day, and he had like these fly Grant Hills on. And I'm like, man, I told him, I said, I'm gonna buy the exact stuff that I didn't have as a kid. So I think a lot of times parents, we will do things out of materialistic things, and it's really not even that. It's just the fact that there was something else that was missing. So you have to find the proper balance. There's nothing wrong with being able to shower your child with gifts, but you don't want to create a child that they're all about name brand, that they're all about the show, because there's just so much more to life than just that. And so my biggest thing is, like what I've been, like this past weekend, I'll give you a prime example that I've been getting on my son about, and he's loving child, very loving. But there are moments where I recognize like this selfishness, that not that he's being intentional selfish, but it's a moment of
innate.
It just happens because we're born honestly of a sinful nature. So selfishness and trying to take care of yourself, it just happens. And so I had to remind him. I said, son, think about this. I said, is there ever a point in time that you come downstairs that, if I'm cooking, that I haven't made you something or I prepared something for you? And he said, no, sir. And I said, well, think about it like this, because I came in from the gym and he made this bomb like breakfast sandwich. I'm talking about like.
Oh, he did?
Oh yeah. He knows how to cook.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And so I come in and I'm just like, I'm joking when I said, Dylan, I just know my son, that made me something. Nah, and he looked at me on the couch and no, Dad, I didn't. And so I had to remind him, and then it happened again.
Yeah.
I made something. Made like a Mediterranean dish. Next thing you know, like I had made his plate. He goes, sometimes we'll just sit in the living room, we'll watch, like a movie or something.
Yeah.
So he had himself a TV tray, and he hadn't put me one out. And I said, son, did you ever think to put me a tray out? I said, at least I made dinner. The least you can do is put your daddy a tray out.
I can't get a tray.
Oh, well, he gives me this excuse. Oh, well, Dad, I know you don't like using TV trays. I said, Dylan, have I ever told you that?
Right.
I said, there may be just moments that I'm just hungry, and I'm just rushing to get my
black folks know we love our TV trays, though, boy. I grew up on that.
But it was the idea of just thinking about your pops, man. I said, because I want you to go into this world, because there's so much hate and jealousy and all kind of stuff, and I want to be able to raise a well-rounded son.
Yeah, and we try to prep them as best we can,
and that's all you can do, man.
Yeah.
And so I know me, like I come from this not military background, but my background is military, law enforcement. So there's this level of discipline and structure. So I realize that I can be overbearing. I can be extremely analytical at times. I can just be a little bit too much, and I have to try to properly.
You have to govern that. Yeah, I have to do that as well, because mine is similar, but not military, but from the athletic standpoint, from coaching. Absolutely. So you're a drill sergeant, you're and you jump on them, and mine's just 10, and you're like, and then sometimes I have to reevaluate. Okay, but then you're like, no, I'm training him up because this one's crazy. Like, da-da-da-da-da. It got to be right. But you said something earlier that I wholeheartedly agree with. Like, we got to equip them with the best tools possible, but we know they're still going to fall. They're still going to make mistakes. And my prayer is always to God, let him go through his life. Let him go through the mistakes. But hopefully he doesn't make any mistakes that he can't come back from.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And because I know, and you say this to other people, especially, I said this to a young lady I was talking to the other day. I was just talking about, my son's going to have some trauma. He's going to be something. Like, no, don't say that. No, we're not going to be. He's going to have something that he's going to have to deal with. And I hope it's not, a vice that hurts him or hurts others. You just pray on that stuff and hope something that he can compartmentalize and deal with. But also for them to understand, like, you can't do it by yourself. Dad, and I have these conversations with him like, yo, Dad messed up here. Yeah. I even talked to him through my divorce. Right. And, I leave adult details out. But I talked to him about that. I talked about the separation and things of that nature because he knows, like, Daddy's not perfect, so I don't want you to try to live this as a standard. Because you know how our kids are. They think we can go grab the moon and hand it to them. Yeah. And, that's not necessarily realistic. So, I have those moments as well where you want to give them everything, but then you want to prepare them for, like, all right, you're going to fall flat on your face. Yeah. Hopes Dad can help you navigate through it. And still not going to be able to.
Right, and that's true. I like the transparency, though, man. Yeah. That's, I think as men, transparency is something I believe that we aren't always as well versed in the way that we should. Yeah. And the fact that you can be that way with your son, to be able to even share, like, not necessarily in full detail about every little thing, but you pick and, you talk to him about the reality of what you're going through, to be able to show him that even in the midst of him seeing you as, our sons see us as these providers, our sons see us as, like on top of the mountain, but there are moments where we have these low moments that they have to see that as well in order to almost see us in a human form. That we will make mistakes.
Yeah, because we're their superheroes. Exactly. We have to show that kryptonite, Yeah. And then I think they'll be better men for it, and they'll remember it down the road. So that's just kind of been my thing. And, lately, obviously, a lot of people know I've been real transparent over the past almost year, which is crazy. Yeah. But it's so freeing, the transparency. And then I want my son or our children or our community, especially men, and I've talked about that before, to be okay with that because it releases a lot. It releases a lot of, a lot of endorphins and we're tense and we have high blood pressure. We die, with all these type of things because we bottle stuff in. Yeah. And to talk about those things is no longer weakness. So I'm doing that without telling him. Yeah. It's just commonplace. Yeah. And then hopefully when he gets older, he'll come and talk to me about stuff that he's going through. He will. So, that's my prayer and that's what I've been working towards, man.
You're planting seeds, man. Yeah. You are absolutely planting seeds and just being able to, I think that's what another thing that we have to do as men with our kids is pray. Yeah. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you got to be the most spiritual or the eloquent. Yeah, for sure. But the fact that you recognize that there's a higher power that you're submitted to, and that, you hit the nail on the head a while ago when you said something about like working out. Yeah. Because that's literally the example that I typically give that I believe that was recently deposited in me. It's almost like God was like, dude, you work out all the time. Yeah. You at the gym, there are moments that you fall off and you go through those growing pains again of, like, if you think about taking a week off from working out in the gym or just working out outside and your muscles are aching. Yeah. And so where I'm at right now is that I'm trying to work that spiritual muscle because there are moments where I feel bad because it's like, God, why can't I sit down and just like have a moment of meditation? And next thing you know, I got all these thoughts bombarding my mind. Yeah. I got the phone ringing. I got this going on. And it was a reminder that I got to work the spiritual muscle the same way that I've been working my physical muscle, man. Yeah, man. And that happens in prayer. If that happens in sitting down and even if it's just 10 minutes in the morning. Sure. Sitting down, reading my Bible or, reading something or listening to something that is building my spirit, man. I've got to do that because that's what's going to ultimately sustain me in life. Sure. Like we think about all other stuff that's going to sustain us. Yeah. That's frivolous stuff. Yeah. It comes and goes. Yeah, for sure. But what's going to truly sustain us is a spiritual foundation in recognizing who we are and whose we are in this life and how we impact those in our reach.
Right.
Yeah.
So was there a watershed moment recently that made you dive back into your spirituality, get back in the Bible? Or was it someone, a brother, a sister, something that happened, or it's just like, yo, I've been BSing, let me jump back into my foundation work? Because that, for me, just looking at all the things, and I was like, yo, I can't handle all this. Stop trying to. I got a father that can handle everything.
Right.
Let me get back centered and get at his feet.
That was one of the reasons it happened. I think my come to Jesus moment was the fact that I felt this weight. Mm-hmm. I felt this weight of me trying to do everything within my power, and God didn't equip us to be able to do everything within our power. God designed us in a way to where whatever we face in this earthly realm, that we should be able to go to Him. And to be able, like the Bible talks about, casting our cares on Him because He cares for us. And so what does casting our cares on Him look like? Because we live in a natural world, but then we serve a spiritual God that we say that we believe by faith. So that's like it's we can't see it. So how do we go about doing it? And that weight got too heavy on me, man. It got to a point where it was like I realized, you start feeling like, feelings of depression creeping in again. And things are going to happen, but it was how was I handling it? Mm-hmm. I recognized that my spirit, man, there was a deficiency in my spirit, man. Yeah. And when I recognized that, there was and this is me again, singing on the praise and worship team at church, once or twice out of the month, me doing all these different things, but I recognized that I still wasn't intentional about establishing or building or feeding that relationship with God. And He's always like seeking after us. He's always like, there are moments where we try to fill that void of what God wants to be able to do in our lives with other natural things. Yeah. And we'll never actually be satisfied. And I believe that that's what was happening with me. It was, I was satisfying myself with all of the, like busying myself. And it's fine. God does, He equipped us the way that we are. Yeah. And He gave us our talents and our strengths, but sometimes He taps us, hey, yo, I'm still here. Like, yo. And so one Sunday morning service, it was beginning of February, I made a decision to get baptized. I saw that. Yeah. I saw that, man. That was powerful. It was me. And now, were you re-baptized, or you had been baptized before? I had been baptized before as a child, when I was maybe 7 or 8 years old. But I felt like as an adult, it was just something different about it. Sure. Like I knew God as a young boy. I was raised in the church. So I've always been there. And so there's always been like this connection with God, but I always feel like there's a certain place where we're going to all have our individual come to Jesus moment where it's like, look, He's calling after you. Are you listening? Sure. That was the biggest thing with me. It was like he's seeking after me. And so now, like that particular service, I started having these thoughts in my mind of, well, people are going to be looking like, oh, he just got on the praise and worship team and he's getting up to do this. And they're going to be thinking, oh, he's this and everything else. Everything. Yeah. You go through that. You go through it. Yeah, absolutely. But a part of me, it was almost like rededicating myself to God at that moment was, it ain't about nobody else but you and your Heavenly Father. Yeah. And you get tricked. The devil will trick you because I had the similar. So I'm back in church. Oh, he's just back in church because him and his girl broke up, or now he's going through it. Now he want to come back. And you have all that. And that's nothing but the devil. Nothing but the enemy. That's nothing but the enemy. You do all those. You think about that. The enemy is going to attack us. Yeah. And that's the part I think that we as Christians or just believers in God is that we don't remind ourselves, or we maybe just because we don't know. Yeah. That those thoughts, those negative thoughts that you're having many times in that situation, like God is always leading and drawing us near to Him. He wants us to be able to commune with Him on a daily basis, even when we don't do it. But those negative thoughts of what people might think and how they might see you. Oh, the only reason why you're doing this is because this. Yeah. It's nothing. The Bible refers to them as fiery darts, that He's going to always attack you in your mind. Because if He can get that thought in your mind is like the equivalent of a garden. Sure. Get that negative thought in there and you ponder on it, and it's planted. Yeah. And then it produces. So that's the reason why we always have to replace those negative thoughts with something positive. Yeah, man. So it's wow. Hey, man, brother, we went to church here, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But let's transition real quick and talk about the next lady in your life and keep it on the spiritual side of things, though.
does she have to be a spiritual person, a church goer, believe in the word, or is she, or what if she's not, but she's open to your leadership? Yeah. Because the Bible says that, the man is supposed to be the spiritual leader of the house. Right. How do you feel about your next lady? Does she have to be that? And is that a must for you? Is that a no?
I'm going to say that is a non-negotiable. Gotcha. At the end, I think a spiritual connection, because the Bible talks about like being unequally yoked. Yeah. And when you truly think about being yoked up with somebody, think about the like imagine what a yoke looks like on two oxen. Like it's bringing two people together. You're going in the same direction. Like one ox can't go the other way, because when you typically think about it, you're going against one another. So that yoke, you're bound. So you literally have to be with somebody. Not that every aspect of the marriage or the relationship you're going to see eye to eye, because you got two different backgrounds. That's the beauty, I think, of relationship. Yeah. But spiritually, man, I have to have it, because I know what's deposited on the inside of me, and I believe that women, they bring a whole nother level, man, to just relationships, just to life, period. Like God created them in such a way that I don't care how much we feel like that we can make it to the top, they can always take us to a whole nother level.
100%.
And it's just, he's equipped them that particular way. So I want that, but I want somebody that I first of all know, and I said this to somebody recently, that I want somebody that I know that even if I'm on some BS one day, that this woman is going to pray for me. Yeah. Like she might say her stuff to me directly, but she's going to run to the Father before she really just truly complains.
She'll run to the Father before she runs to her friends.
Absolutely.
Or for runs to Instagram or
because
Twitter.
To me, you recognize that who's going to truly like touch my heart. It's not your girlfriend. No. It ain't your family. It's going to be the Heavenly Father. He's going to be the one that reveals to me. Now, if I'm stubborn and I'm set in my own ways, and of course God could be dealing with me, and I just ignore that He is, but I want somebody that's willing to be able to say that I'm running to my Father, my Heavenly Father, about this situation long before I run to anybody else about this topic.
Yeah, and I think most men, rational men who which I've always talked about that I do, and a spiritual person, really wants that. Yeah. And we value women. We value what you bring to us, and we want to be that same value to you. And that's one of the things that I want to talk about as coming back to this platform, talking about men being able to own up to some of our transgressions and women to do the same, because I want us to all pull in the same direction, similar to being yoked, right? So with that being said, has it been hard for you to find that lady? Because I know you've been on your spirit. Have you been looking, or just kind of one of those things you're still just, you're not ready, like you said? Like, or has there been, one or two that you've like, okay, I want to go there, and something happens? Right. Just kind of what's been going on with that?
I would say that's really what it's been. It's been kind of like one or two right now. Yeah. But I think because of where I'm at spiritually, at the beginning of this year, I felt like God was saying to me, I need you to focus on me. Yeah. And that flat out, just not trying to give attention to like, you can go out, you can do this, do that, but not truly giving attention to trying to build the relationship, because I felt like that spiritual connection between me and God is what was missing. Yeah. So, I can say that I desire it. I have thoughts in my mind like, man, I wonder who my wife. Because I'm really coming. You feel it, and I feel it, dude. I feel it because I know that. God. Ladies, he's feeling it. I know God is changing me, man. Right. When you know God is changing you, and I believe that if you've heard this before, like we'll talk about the Proverbs 31 woman. We'll talk about he who finds a wife finds a good thing. Sure. And so when you think about finding a wife, you're not finding somebody who is saying to themselves, I'm going to get myself together to be a wife just to be able to be in a relationship with you. The Bible is saying that you're finding somebody that they've already done the work. Now they're still doing work because they're still becoming, but they already exhibit some of the signs of what a wife is to be. Yeah. So that's no different than us as men. Yeah. We have to make sure that even in our state of singleness is that we're establishing that relationship with God first, and then that we're always trying to become a better man, so we can also be husband material long before we walk down the aisle and say I do. Facts. That's what I'm working on right now. Like I've always said to myself, like, even though externally people would say, man, he's a good dude. He's this, and that's great because if externally people view me that way, I think that's a commendable thing. But inside, deep down, we know our dark areas.
Sure.
We know our areas that we struggle in. We know the areas when we might go off or, say something fly to somebody that maybe everybody else doesn't see. And I've always just told myself, I want to be a good man.
Yeah.
I just, there's a song I think.
Neo.
I just want to be I just want to. And when you say a good man, I'm talking not necessarily just in deeds, just in every aspect of our lives, whether it be seen or unseen. I just want to be that man that God can look down upon and say, you know what? That's a man after my own heart.
Yeah.
He's not perfect, but he's seeking me daily. He wants to just to be how he can positively impact his world. Like I want to be that in every aspect. Yeah. And I feel like at some points in my life I've deviated from that.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I'm back on track. Yeah. And GPS will get you back.
It will. God's GPS.
Yep, that's it.
No, man, it's so crazy you say that because I suffer with the same thought process. And, I'm a people pleaser. I want everyone to like me and then everyone to have something good to say. And then sometimes you get lost in that and you deviate from, the real things that you're going through and be okay with knowing that you're not on an island alone.
Yeah.
You can still be this great man, great person, great son, great father, whatever, and still have these flaws and deficiencies.
Yeah, sure.
And that's the thing that I want us men and women, but especially men, to understand, like, you don't have to be perfect from A to Z.
Correct.
Right? And it's okay if you walk in a room of 10 people and 3 people don't like you.
Yeah. Everybody ain't gonna like
you. You know what I'm saying?
The biggest thing
that's
that we
70%.
Everybody
70%.
On this earth ain't gonna like you.
Exactly.
First of all, you don't want everybody to like you
because you're not doing something right. So that's the thing. My thing I've been going through prayer and being in the church. And shout out to Higher Dimension and Pastor Jay for his help there. But understanding, like, if 3 people inside of 10 don't like it, it's okay. That's still 70%. Anybody would take 70% odds in anything you do.
Right.
If you the lottery, if you're playing a game or anything, I'll take 70% odds.
Right.
So where are you at now at church? What's the name of your church and where you attend?
So the church I go to is Grace. Mm-hmm. I'm at the Humble location.
Oh, out there,
I've been right there at the Beltway 59.
Yeah, cool, man.
We got multiple locations. We have one in Tomball. We have one.
That's cool, man. So shout out to Grace Church, man.
For sure.
So all right, so let's move on. So one of the things, me and you ran into each other on an airplane.
Yeah.
I was in LA coming back, and you were in LA you were in LA. You were connecting flight.
Yeah.
And you were in Thailand.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned, we were talking, we chopped it up. You were flying, and was this part of your spiritual journey? Kind of speak to the travels that you just went on and what you got from that and what was the purpose, and then how did you come on the other side of that?
So Thailand was somewhat of a last minute trip, man. I have a good friend named James, aka JJ.
Yeah.
And he had just came back from Thailand a few months prior, and he just talked about the peace that he experienced through just the journey of going out there, just experiencing a different culture.
Yeah.
And I talked about going. But where I was at, like emotionally, man, and spiritually and mentally as well, I just felt like I need to just go.
Yeah.
And so I ended up purchasing the flight, I think maybe like the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I left the day after Thanksgiving and stayed out there for about 2 weeks, man. Yeah. It was a part of that spiritual journey because it was a test for myself because I had never traveled like alone internationally.
Yeah.
Anytime I've traveled, for the most part, I've went with a group.
Yeah.
There's been an itinerary. I get up, I follow that itinerary, and I've just been chilling. So it was also a test for me to step outside of my comfort zone. And in doing so, I was able to learn a lot about myself, doing that alone time. And then sometimes just say to yourself, it's okay to get up and not do anything. Because I'm always going.
Yeah.
So being in Thailand, it was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do today? There was the first day I was there, I'm gonna be honest with you, I think fear hit me.
Yeah.
And I felt like Edwin, what are you doing?
Right.
Like I literally was sitting there on a hotel bed and I sat there and I'm like, Edwin, what are you doing? And I had to tell myself, like, get up.
Yeah.
Like I'm not this person that's afraid to go out and just like enjoy myself. But for whatever reason or another, I just felt fear hit me, man, and it gripped me. And I had to like talk to myself. And then eventually I got into the flow. And just went out there and went on a food tour.
Yeah.
Boat rides, all kind. Thailand the spot, man.
Yeah, you was telling me.
It's some foolishness out there, though, too.
For sure.
It's some foolishness out there. That's all I'm gonna tell you.
Right.
So you gotta.
How was the women out there?
you gotta be careful in Thailand.
Yeah, okay.
And some of y'all, I'm gonna say, because it's some people out there. It's a lot of military guys out there.
Yeah.
You see a lot.
Okay.
So I had to remind myself, like, because there's a human flesh side of me too.
Sure, absolutely, man.
So I'm just gonna tell you, man, there were some tests, but I'm thankful just for every experience that I had when I was out there.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So how did we get, so your spiritual journey, we talked about that. And then a lot of people know, if you didn't know, you've dealt with some anxiety, depression, PTSD.
Yeah.
You spoke about being in the military prior, before you became a chef.
Yeah.
And then I remember back in the day, you talked about cooking was kind of your healing process.
Correct. For sure.
And then, so talk to, one would assume that PTSD never goes away.
It doesn't.
Do you something you deal with? And I remember you talked about not really going to therapy. You went one time and then you just didn't go back.
Yeah.
Where's your process with that? How have you been? How are you with that in your healing process or talking? Do you see someone to help you with your PTSD?
So I did start back seeing a therapist. I got to a point where the night tremors had started coming back and I wasn't recognizing or really identifying why they were coming back. So they were just, sleepless nights of, and I still kind of sleep 3.5, 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like that hasn't changed. But it was the amount of, getting up restless and having these unexpected moments of just waking up like involuntarily, like shaking.
Yeah.
And not necessarily dreaming about, some of the attacks or things that I was dealing with. But a lot of it, I'm going to be honest, man, I feel it stemmed with my spirit.
Okay.
There was a moment where, I was driving one day and I almost felt like everything that I was experiencing wasn't always PTSD related. There were moments where I was waking up in the middle of the night where I felt like it really was like, as a recent, I think God revealed itself in a certain way where it became, that wasn't a PTSD moment. That was the Holy Spirit waking you up to be able to spend time with me or to be able to get you to recognize that I'm drawing you back. And so it was just like this come to Jesus moment, man.
Yeah.
I did start seeing like a therapist to be able to sit down and talk about things.
Sure.
But I honestly feel like where I'm at right now, because of that reconnection spiritually, rest has been, it's been good. And sometimes it's only been 4 hours.
Yeah.
It's been me changing the atmosphere of my bedroom. Sometimes just putting on like worship music that's not like really, loud, but it's very peaceful.
Sure.
And just allowing the Spirit of God to be able just to permeate my house.
Yeah.
And setting this atmosphere of worship that I feel like has settled my spirit to where even if I only get 4 hours of sleep, I still wake up like I felt like 8 hours.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I'm
amazing.
saying?
That's good, man. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
So how does that manifest itself in your relationships?
Yeah.
Like how is that because you've been in relationships before,
Correct.
how was that worked through with your significant other?
I would say with the way that it ties in with relationship, it's getting a different response from me.
Okay.
I think our flesh is we're going to always be in a test. Like when we think about like we might pray for patience or peace or whatever it might be, we're going to deal with impatient situations.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing was how I responded to those situations. And so, not just romantic relationships, but I think when you think about dealing with family or dealing with any kind of relationship from friendships and things of that nature where you might deal with an issue that arises, I'm very quick to be able to. I've always been this person where I'm quick to say, "Hey, will you forgive me for doing a certain thing?" Because I just don't like to leave things that linger.
Yeah.
But I'm very aware, or a lot more aware than I was before.
Got you.
In relation to like a situation happened yesterday, and I had a talk with my son about it, and I told him, I say, "Well, Dylan, I say, you remember, how I responded? Like I let something build up." Where I should have been just transparent about it. And it built up to the point where I gave a response, to a friend of mine that I shouldn't have given a response the way that I did.
Yeah.
But as quickly as I apologized to that friend about how I responded to the matter, it was almost like the Holy Spirit inside of me just said, okay, well now, like you have this sensitivity that I'm looking for.
Right.
Like it's not that we're going to ever be perfect. It's just, are we sensitive to when we mess up? Because God knows that we're going to mess up.
Yeah.
This flesh is going to always do what it does.
And the fact that you ask for forgiveness a lot
Yeah. Because we don't
shows
do
that shows that you're cognizant of what's going on, and you understand it's going to happen, but you're going to have to try to do your best to navigate through that process. So speaking of the word forgiveness, you know, we mentioned earlier and kind of brushed over the fact that, you know, you and your father didn't have a close relationship, right? And that was documented on our show, things like that, and you had worked towards trying to navigate through that. Have you forgiven your father, and what was the last, you know, the transition for you? Yeah. With accepting, because he recently passed, right?
He passed. It's probably been now, I think we're going on 2 years now.
Yeah,
I think it is
okay.
Now.
So how was that? Because I know when we got back from the show, you had tried to, you know, work on y'all's relationship, and then not long after he passed. Yeah. So did you forgive him? Did y'all have a conversation, or did, you know, how did that go for you, and how are you dealing with it now?
The way that situation happened, you know, to me, unexpectedly, he passed away. But you know, he was already dealing with, you know, an illness, and I did forgive him. It was a moment of, I don't think that I was ever walking in unforgiveness towards him. Okay. I was always trying to establish relationship, and I recognized that he just didn't have the capacity to do what I was expecting him to do. I think we as children, you know, we put an expectation on our parents to be able to be certain things that they might not ever be able to become. Yeah. And we have to be okay with that. Sure. So it was me as a grown man saying to myself, let me accept the fact that he might not ever give you the love that you felt like you needed, or the fact that he wasn't there in your younger years or even as an adult. But the biggest thing that you can do is try to establish relationship with your son. And so that's what happened right before he passed away, because I think if you recall on the show, I talked about being able to reconnect with them. So when we got off the show, I never actually did it. It took time. I think maybe, maybe like 9 months or maybe almost a year had passed by before I decided to reach out to him. And then when I finally did, I didn't get the response that I thought that I was going to get. And so that part allowed me, I kind of got internally upset about that. Okay. But what I made a decision to do was, I said my son had never really met him. To my knowledge, maybe when he was an infant, I think maybe I had taken Dylan there, but he hadn't met him like as an older teenager. And so Dylan and I were out, you know, in the city. We stayed downtown. We you know, we did some events over at Discovery Green, did a staycation at the Hilton. Sure. And we went out. I remember we went out to eat, and I told Dylan right then on the spot, I said, we're getting ready to go meet your grandfather, because I just felt it. And not knowing that that was going to be the last time that I'd ever talked to him. That was because that was June, Father's Day. And then November, you know, he had passed away. Yeah. And I kept feeling the need to like meet with him and go and see him. But I just kept, you know, busyness of life and everything else. But I'm thankful that I did, because, you know, part of me felt like, well, I want to bring him a Father's Day gift, but I didn't have anything because I didn't think of him in that particular way. And God on the inside said, your son is his Father's Day gift. And so I introduced him to him. You know, he had like a breathing machine on him. He was sitting at his, you know, computer in his bedroom, and we got a chance to take like our final picture. But it was a picture that, you know, I'll cherish because of the fact that I felt like I was obedient to whatever that was I was feeling on the inside about, because only God knew that would have been the last time that I would have saw him. And he sent me a text, one of the only texts that I'd ever received from him, that said, thank you for allowing me to meet my grandson. Wow, powerful. And it was a powerful thing, right? Because it just let me know that at that moment, you know, I touched his heart in his dying days, and that's what it was.
Well, that's a blessing, man. That's awesome, and that was definitely the Holy Spirit that led that charge for you to do that. So, man, let's lighten it up a little bit, man. So, you know, again, I always enjoy chopping it up with you, man. So, I want to talk about some pop culture stuff, right? Because I talk about the stuff that's going on in you. I want to get your opinion on these young bucks out here that's slipping and sliding, and all these Instagram models and all these women that have been kind of passed around, so to speak, throughout the industry. These young bucks, you got our local kid, Jalen Green, 22 years old. He just got Drea pregnant. She's almost 40, and she's dealt with all the likes of, you know, whomever. And then you got another cat, the Diggs kid for the Cowboys. He just got a young lady pregnant who's had a child for, I think, Future and Bow. Like, what are these young cats do? Like what's going on? Because I get to a certain level of you know, I tell people all the time, okay, yeah, I was on TV, but I'm a Z-list celebrity.
Yeah.
But
I always say we at the bottom of the
right.
pole when it
But
comes down.
I get there's a circle that you kind of navigate in, and you want to be around people who kind of understand your plight and what you go through, blah, blah, blah. But these guys have access to women that you could find. These girls, yeah, they look great, but you could sit in the Galleria Mall for a couple hours and find a girl next door look just as bad, just as beautiful with all that. How you feel about these young cats getting involved in this, man? And they getting, you know.
All I could say, man, is that you can hope for the best for some of these guys.
Yeah.
You're going to always have women out there, and I don't want to call anybody. I don't know everybody's intention.
Sure.
We don't know everybody's intention on why they get in these relationships, but I think
But
young
it's
guys,
after 1, 2, 3, 4, like, I don't care if you're in Bangkok, 2 + 2 still equals 4.
It does.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is going on?
I just think sometimes we as men, we fall for certain things.
Right.
Because again, we're operating
the
off
flesh.
of this.
Do you think it's just the conquest? Do you think like most men like, yo, I don't want a chick that's been passed around.
Yeah.
But these guys, quote unquote, are messing with these women.
Right.
Or do you think it's like, okay, well, he did this, so let me show I'm the big bad guy. I want to jump in there too. Like, I don't get it, man. I'm just
It could be that whole thing of like the conquest and trying to conquer somebody, and I think we as men, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, like to beat our chest.
Yeah, 100%.
And so it could be. I think that might be that.
Right. I mean, it's just because I have a young athlete, son, who wants to play in the NBA, and I'm doing all my resources the best I possibly can, and then it's gonna take a lot of luck and a lot of God, and for him to get to that point. But he's pretty talented, and I'm like worried about like, all right. Like, is he going to go to the LeBron route? Is he going to have his high school sweetheart? Right. And, I know they went through their things or whatever, but, that's a solid foundation, a family foundation. Is he going to do that? Or is he going to get tricked off the scene like the other young lady, the Brittany Renners of the world? Is he going to be that? Like, you just never know, man. I'm going to
tell you this. What's in a man's heart is going to come out at the end of it all. So as long as we can make sure that we keep instilling inside of men, what they need to do and how they go out and navigate this earth, man, that's all we can do.
Well, you tell me how it goes, man, because you got an 11th grader, so mine's just 10. He still don't like girls. He see men and women kissing on TV. He's like, ugh. I was like, all right, stay that way for a while, brother. Don't get in a rush. But man, I'm seeing these cats, and then these guys are worth millions and millions of dollars. And it's one thing if this happens, boom, and there's a relationship there, and they love each other, and they get married, and there's a family unit. But oftentimes you see like this one, she's got 3 different baby fathers, and they're all celebrities and have money. But where's the family structure? That's the disappointing part for me. Like, it's the women themselves. Okay, whatever.
Right.
They're women. They need love too. I'm not saying that, but there's no real relationships that come out of all this stuff.
I think there's a lack again of a foundational standard. I think that really, like when we think about all of the stuff that we see with celebrities and individuals that are going through these situations. When you truly go back, I think everything to me still goes back to, because I think about the moments, like I've had moments of wilding out.
Yeah, for sure. We all have.
And I've had some where that, like even after the show, of moments where I had to stop and recognize, like, Edwin, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But
do you use your celebrity a little bit after the show? Be honest.
I'm gonna be honest. I tried not to, man. It wasn't.
You tried not to.
Let me correct it. I think there were moments where I don't think that I intentionally used it, but I think that there were women that identified and recognized me in a certain place, and I didn't look at myself that way. Course,
for sure.
But the bringing me together with certain folks it came about at the hands of being on the show.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying?
So that's why I try to give these cats grace, because yes, you're around in this circle of celebrity and status and stuff like that. And then now it's so much easier with Instagram. You're just boom, boom, boom. You're direct contact with somebody. Then boom, next thing you know, she done got flued out and blah, blah, blah. So, that leads me to a question for you though. So, Edwin, you're a phenomenal chef. I've eaten your food, and people, women love a man who can cook. Yeah. And you get flued out to host and cook at events, and you get paid. Edwin's booked and busy, so we're going to share his information if y'all want him to curate an event for you all, a dinner party of any kind locally, and he flies all over the country to do that. Yeah. But do you have a point, there's something that stands out, like a crazy fan type story, stalker, or somebody tried to get through you through the food? Like, do you have a story that you could share that stands out?
I think it was one where I was doing an event in Chi-Town.
Okay.
And it was they had just went through a snowstorm.
Okay.
And
I love the shot, just not in the winter.
I think this is the one where I actually went live, because around that time, right after the show, I would go live a lot in the midst of the process of cooking. And so everybody was watching. And so after we got everything cleaned up, it was still like snowy outside. The roads are still kind of like can't move around as quickly as you need to. Yeah. And so I felt the person that hired me to be able to do this event wanted me to stay with her, and she kept like making suggestions for me to be able to do so. Okay. And I was just like, okay, God, I'm not. Baby, I
like pancakes in the morning. What was she saying? How's your egg?
It was all kind of ways of trying to convince me to be able to stay. But again, had I been like, one thing about me is that I did not want to be that dude where it was like, okay, well, Chef Ed came and cooked us an amazing meal, and next thing you know, he trying to smash every chick or whatever. Yeah. Right? I didn't want my business associated.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's
and
smart.
So I think that was the biggest thing that kept me out of that, because it could have happened. Yeah. I've had other moments where, through the show, I've had things happen. Yeah. But, not in business related matters would I ever want that to happen, man. So to me, I think that was the funniest situation, because it was, we were drinking wine, and of course, you could say some things under when you got them other spirits flowing. When them other spirits
in the glass.
When them spirits flowing, man, anything could happen. But I'm thankful that I didn't let the spirit take advantage.
Man, the flesh.
Next thing you know, you'd be baking cakes and all that. And we don't need that.
Got you, man. Well, man, I really appreciate this time, brother. I could talk to you for hours, man. We just share a lot, and it's good stuff, man. But the last thing I want to talk about is what I mentioned to you, kind of the things I've been working on, and you mentioned you'd be happy to join in. Is this Still Him? The Still Him movement is what I call it. Yeah. Men who's gone through similar things that I have, similar things that you have, whether it be relationship stuff, environmental stuff that we go through as Black men, the things that we have, the challenges that we face when we step outside of our front doors, and us trying to be Superman and understand that we don't have it all figured out, and acknowledge those things. And for my men to understand that you can have deficiencies, you can be flawed and still be a great man, husband, father, you name it, right? Because we need to be there for our children and our women.
Correct.
And I know you've gone through some things. You shared some things with me as some of the pitfalls in trying to be in your son's life more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And can you speak to, I know you don't have to go into a lot of detail, but can you speak to sometimes you felt insignificant as a man? It's like, damn, I'm trying to do it all. And you feel like, damn, what else does she want from me, or society, or like, speak to how you get through that. And there's men out there listening that think they're by themselves. You know what I'm saying? And I felt that way, and that's why after I acknowledged those things, I heard from so many men saying they go through the similar thing.
No, absolutely, man. And I'm gonna say this first, that men, you are absolutely valuable. That God has equipped us to be able to be leaders on this earth.
Facts.
And I've had many, many moments, and really, really just like dark moments where I felt like I was alone, or I felt like I was invaluable. And so I acted out of me not identifying my own self-worth. And I think that's where we fall victim, man. We don't recognize the true value that God has placed inside of us. And when you don't truly value something, like when you really just don't value that gift that's on the inside of you, then you do things that will devalue that gift.
Facts.
And I recognize at a certain point in time, I was devaluing everything that God had already put inside of us, because everything that He's equipped you to be is already there. It's just really for you to be able to discover it and to be able to work on that and then cultivate it. Yeah. That's like what God designed Adam to do when He put him in Eden, was to cultivate the land, to be able to name the animals, to be able to name this. And so it's the journey for me right now, man, it's continually reminding myself, and I have like things inside of my bathroom or on a mirror inside of my bedroom that talks about my value, that talks about my worth, that I have to speak daily. I don't always do it,
sure,
but it's visually I'm seeing it. Yeah. And so I think it's really just ourselves identifying that, who we are. And I hate to, always seem like I over spiritualize it, but we're spirit beings, man. And we have to talk to ourselves to be able to recognize that he's put something inside of us to be able to go out into this world and to be able to conquer the land and to be able to, recognize who we are. Now we first have to identify that even in the deficiencies that we have, that there's still some worth there.
Absolutely,
we're never going to always be all together.
Sure, never. And then that's the problem we fall into.
Yeah.
And I equate it to something similar to when people lose or born without some of their natural senses. Right?
Yeah.
You always hear about other senses elevating.
Absolutely.
So a person who can't hear typically has better eyesight, or someone who can't see can hear better or have better taste for the certain elements of. So one of the things that I talked about with growing up with my reading deficiencies and how I had to overcome those things, I got stronger in other aspects.
Yeah.
I learned how to speak well. My vocabulary came better.
Yeah.
And then that allowed me to start reading and comprehending better. But see, I had a deficiency here, but I was always focused on that.
Yeah.
Like, I got to get this right. But what about all these 10 other things?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We have to acknowledge those up front and don't try to hide the fact that those are deficiencies, because he gave us that deficiency to give us a strength in another aspect.
No, we have to learn from people that are in your life. God didn't design us, just like God didn't design us to be alone in relation to, being married and building the family. He didn't design us to be alone in relationship as far as being isolated by ourselves. And that was the biggest area that I had to recognize was friendship and recognizing that there are people, whether it be, best friend or whether it be somebody that just plays a part in your life, whether it be, through messages that we shoot to each other via text, that we all play a part in being able to help each other to be able to make it to that next stage in our life. Like, there's not a single thing on this earth that a man has went through that some other man hasn't went through. And so a part of my transparency as a recent has been being able just to talk to some of my boys and be able to share what I've been dealing with. Some of them dealt with some of the same situations, and not being afraid to be able to share that, with our fellow brother, to be able to, you need somebody to be able to lean on.
Yeah.
I think if we keep operating from this place of that we can handle it, that we can do it by ourselves, that we don't have to talk to anybody, then the weight of the world is going to crumple us and we're going to fold, we're going to blow up.
And what happens is we start lying to ourselves, and then what do? We lie to others.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's just not sustainable. So, man, that's what I'm working on. And, women out there that you knew, a man that you love, your husband, your significant other, a child, a brother that can benefit from these things. I'm working on putting something together to where we can have a conglomerate of men that we can come, chop it up, share our stories, share the stuff that we go through, because it's going to make us better men, and ultimately, again, better for our significant others,
for sure.
better for our children, so they don't have to go through those things, man. And that's been placed on my heart since my video and things of that nature, and the men that reached out, emotional about, man, bro, I want the same thing. And I keep talking about it, but it's still in my spirit.
Right.
And I got to help brothers out there. And ultimately, again, it's going to just help everybody around us.
Yeah.
So, man, thank you so much for joining me, man. And you're always welcome back anytime, brother.
Man.
Let everybody know where they can find you, what you got going on. And,
Yeah. So y'all can find me on Instagram, Chefs in the City 713. I got an event coming up with actually a fellow castmate, Tony. We're doing a breakfast boot camp.
Yeah, I saw that.
So breakfast boot camp, man, is we're all about, Tony's in the health and fitness game, and I actually was a personal trainer years back. So I did meal prep, and so I started the business before Chefs in the City, and it was Everyday Health.
Okay.
And Tony's another one of those good guys,
man. Yeah, solid,
just real good guy,
that
man.
brother there.
Really good, great spirit.
Good dude.
And so there was always this leading of me wanting to connect with him business-wise.
Yeah.
And I felt like at the beginning of this year, God was like, where to make the move. So I sent him a text, and he was like, he got confirmation on it. He was like, man, he said, I was, wondering myself, like, what my next move was going to be. And this is something that we're just kind of like testing right now.
Yeah.
We're doing it at the end of each quarter. So on March 30th, This Saturday, we're going to do one at one of the local parks. That's going to have a nice background to it, and then we'll move to a different park at the end of the second quarter, and we're going to do one each quarter until the end of the year. But it's just to really get people together, to be able to work on their fitness and their overall health.
Sure.
And then also prepare, at the very end of the training session, then I'm gonna chef it up for them, have a healthy breakfast or
I
brunch.
love that.
To kind of show people, what they can do even at home, and then maybe bring us some business even after that on the outside. So that's what we got going right now.
Well, good, man. Y'all definitely make sure y'all support my guy, Chef Edwin Henderson. Big time brother, doing a lot of big time things. This is my guy, man. Thank you so much for joining me, man.
Appreciate you, man.
This has been real, as always.
Absolutely,
my
man.
guy.
Thank you for having me,
man.
brother.
Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for joining the podcast and checking it out. Make sure you like, subscribe, share. Tell a friend, even tell your goldfish and their friend. We'll see you next time. I am Rashid. This is the Ages to Stages podcast. Thank you. Peace.
Y'all be good.